Welcome to episode 30 of the Entrepreneur School podcast. I am blown away that it has now been like 6 months and 30 episodes of this podcast already, which just goes to show how fast time flies by. And I wanted to do a special episode today to celebrate this fact that we have continued and beat the odds of podcasting. Apparently, most podcasts create like 7 episodes and then stop, which I don't even understand that, but apparently that's true. Not my plan. I'm going to be here for the long run. And I just wanted to share in some of the excitement. Today, I'm going to talk through a little bit of what I've learned from 6 months of podcasting, as well as how I use my podcast and leverage that into multiple pieces of content so that I'm not creating new things every single day and being exhausted with content creation. And I'm going to break all that down for you. I have a special contest that I want to tell you about at the end of this episode. But I first want to start with why I think it's so important that we celebrate the wins. This episode is dedicated to celebrating the win of 30 episodes of like 2,000 downloads. Thank you so much for listening, for having me in your ears every week or however long you've been following for, and for allowing me to create this content and use this platform to share the important message of, how we can support entrepreneurs and moms in particular in growing a business that fits around your life. That is my mission with this platform and with bringing on all of the people who I bring on and sharing all of the strategies that I have from my years of experience in branding and marketing, and now in just being a business owner myself for 7 years and figuring it out along the way. So there is this really awesome book. I actually haven't read the book, but the whole concept makes total sense. And it reminds me of, when I have a good awareness of celebrating wins, I'm in a better space. So that's why we're doing this episode today. And celebrating wins means measuring against where you came from, which of course I want to have thousands of downloads like every single episode. Of course, I want to have more episodes under my belt and want to have a top rated podcast. Sure, all of those things are goals that I have, but that doesn't mean that where I'm at is insignificant. And it's important to recognize that. So I learned this the hard way, that I was not very good at acknowledging success. And I think a lot of us have this problem. So I actually wrote a chapter in a book a couple of years ago about what success means to me as an entrepreneur and how it's not connected necessarily to a particular financial outcome. Like we hear all the time, let's make 10K months and have a 6-figure business, and everything before that doesn't count. Well, let me tell you, the journey to 6 figures can take years of time, effort, refining, continuing to put yourself out there, to create momentum, to build consistency. All of that is a lot. And every single piece of that needs to be acknowledged along the way. So what I realized is that actually this happened in a coaching conversation I was having with my own coach at the time. And she would always say, what are your wins since last week? And I actually hadn't talked to her for a couple weeks that time. So what were my wins? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Probably nothing. I don't know. So we talked for a few minutes and then I realized, won a national marketing award for my work with a client, and also launched a workshop and had 5 people register for my very first workshop, which was amazing. And I had just forgotten all of that. I would just like, okay, cool, goal achieved, moving on, what's next? So it was like I had this reset of like, once something has happened, you don't like celebrate it, you just move on to the next thing. And we can get stuck in that very easily as high achievers, ambitious people, entrepreneurs. Like it's just, we're always trying to do the next thing. So that's why I wanted to take the time today to just share with you, like, I'm going to soak in this success of having this podcast running and people listening to it for 6 months. I am imagining the room of the 60 to 100 people who are listening every single week that I get to stand in as if I'm in that physical room with you. So thank you so much for being here. This is like truly the path to my dreams coming true, because speaking is something I absolutely love doing and I want to do more of. So that is why I actually chose this platform to continue my content creation journey. And I'm just celebrating it. So if there's something that you have just achieved, even if you think it's small, even if it's not the full outcome of what your goal actually is, I want you to celebrate that. And one thing you can do to make sure that you're celebrating this more regularly is write things down, like on a daily basis. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a free copy of my win sheet in the show notes here. This is a tool that I created once I learned that I was not doing this. This is a tool that I created to prompt myself to keep track of things that were happening on a regular basis, whether that was, your wins. They vary on a daily basis. Sometimes you do win a national marketing award. Sometimes you do hit X number of downloads on your podcast. And sometimes you just showered today. You got your kids out the door. Both of them had lunches and sunscreen on, and that is your win. And you should celebrate that too. So I have this sheet and it has a few prompts for you. And if you print this out and you keep it beside you and you just fill it out every day, you're going to be able to see the progress you're making physically in front of you. I've also been reading the book Atomic Habits, and it talks about the importance of tracking your habits. Tracking anything shows you that you're actually doing it. It demonstrates physically in front of your eyes that what you say you want to do is actually happening. So I'm going to pop a copy of that in here. My gift to you on the 6-month anniversary of Entrepreneur School, the podcast. So let's dive into a little bit of the lessons learned and the podcasting as a tool, as a marketing tactic, as part of my business growth strategy. So what I have mostly learned from 6 months of podcasting is it reinforces the importance of content creation. And content creation in a long form content is really helpful. It's helpful not just for your own growth, but the actual act of doing something like this regularly every week or every however often you're doing it, like in short, condensed periods of time, not like once a month. That's not going to build a habit, at least weekly. So what it all started out with for me was my weekly Facebook Lives, which turned into running big events, which turned into doing workshops every other week with guest speakers, which turned into some interview series, which turned into this podcast. And always I have had something where regular content creation was part of the habit in my business. And what I have gained the most out of this is a skill set and confidence. So the more that you talk about the topics that your business covers, your areas of expertise, the more that you do that, the more confident you become in talking about those things in other kinds of conversations and contexts, such as discovery calls with potential clients, or when you go meet people or out at networking events. This allows you to feel more confident in your expertise, which gets you additional opportunities, clients, partnerships, collaborations, all of those kinds of things, which is really, really important. So that's what I think is the key aspect of having a process like this, a platform like this, whether it's podcasting, whether you're doing videos on YouTube or even just live videos on social media channels. Whatever you're doing, if you can do it at least once a week and you can do it like a 10 to 15 minute piece of content, you're golden, because you also then can take that content and leverage it into other types of content. So I take my podcast and I turn it into at least 5 additional things. So you get the podcast here. You can also find it on my website. It's a blog post on the website. So the whole transcript is there, and that keeps the website SEO happy because new things are being added every single week. It's on YouTube. So if you like to watch instead of just listen, or like people who are on that platform can then find my content on YouTube. And there's this whole lovely channel now of 30 videos on YouTube. Every single week, the podcast goes out in an email. So I tell a little behind the scenes story of the conversation that happened, the topic, why we're talking about it. And I send it out in an email to my list, which gives me an opportunity to reconnect with the people who have joined my email list and who I am able to then nurture and have further conversations with and add additional value to them there. And then, of course, I turn it into 2 or 3 social media posts. So there's usually a video clip, which I make a reel out of, and then 1 or 2 other static posts or carousel posts that I combo together to point to it even more. So it's all a big wheel of content, and the number of spokes on there is expanding depending on, your own choices and what kind of social media or platforms you want to use for marketing. If you have resources, if you have a team to help support putting it on all of those places, you don't have to do all of this, but certainly it's easy to have a couple of those and use it for multiple other purposes besides just the one main platform. So those are the sort of keys to this strategy of content creation. And as we know, content creation is so important. Just being able to have somewhere where you can talk about and showcase your expertise, and not just in a how to do this and how to do that kind of a way, but just a place where you're speaking and people can get to know you and connect with you. If you're here on the podcast, you've heard, personal stories from me, you've followed the journey, we have a relationship beyond that of social media, beyond just, you going to my website and seeing what it says on there that I have to offer, or what about me, the about me section of my website says. So this is all about relationship building, which is the key to business, because people buy from people who they know, like, and trust is formed through relationships and time. So if you're thinking about what you need to do to start your own content creation platform or like piece of content, whether it's a podcast or not, because I know the podcasting can seem very intimidating, especially because there's a lot of tech involved. And if you need support with that, I have a whole team that I can introduce you to. I would be happy to share who's helping me with mine, because I don't want to do all those things either. And so it's always intimidating to start something new, but truly time goes by so fast, and you'll either have something to show for it, or you'll just be wishing that you had started that thing 6 months ago. So start today, start now, start messy, do the thing. Like we always talk about on this show, it's time to do the thing. And my one request to you for being here, if you have not yet, please leave me a review. If you leave a review of this podcast, I have a special contest going on for this week of ending July 23rd. This is the week of our 6-month anniversary on Entrepreneur School. You leave me a review and you screenshot that, share it on Instagram, and tag us at Entrepreneur School Podcast. You will be entered to win my simplified content system tool. This is valued at over $700, and it's actually the entire system that I use to plan, create, repurpose, schedule, all of the things, all the content, including everything that I'm doing in my podcast. So inside there is a magical calendar, which I have categorized, I have created so that it automatically populates the right dates on the right place, which in and of itself is a feat in Excel. So this magical calendar will help you to get a bird's eye view of what you're planning. You can put in collaborations, you can put in your Instagram posts, you can put in, if you're doing a bigger thing like this, how you're going to chop it up. All of it goes there, and I have a training on how to use it strategically and how to, really maximize your reach with fewer effort, and keep track of everything, because when you have all of your content in one place, then you can repurpose it so much easier. If you create your content right now directly in the platform of whatever social media app you're using, so if you're just using Instagram and you create it and publish it from Instagram, you don't have a record of that. It disappears. And it's very hard to copy and paste it back into a place where you can then go, oh, I had that post like 6 months ago and it went really well. So how about I redo it? I turned it into a reel. I created, reword it and put it somewhere else. Or if it's a post that's related to something that you were sharing about and selling and it worked, why wouldn't we just do that again? So we don't need to recreate the wheel all the time. Repurposing is so important and easy. So the simplified content system is up for grabs to one lucky winner who takes a screenshot and shares on Instagram a review of the podcast that you leave in the next week by July 23rd. So, and of course, if you miss out on that, you can always buy the simplified content system, which is an amazing tool. And I highly recommend having this as part of your marketing arsenal, as part of your toolkit for reach, for growing your reach, for putting yourself out there, and for getting more eyeballs on your business. Again, I really want to thank you for being here and spending the time with me in these last 6 months, no matter how new you are to the podcast. And if this is your very first episode listening, thank you so much. I am here on Instagram. I really love it when you reach out and you tell me that you listened to something, and whatever you got out of it, I would love to hear. So I really do invite you into my DMs to have a conversation with me about what's going on with your business, what kind of business you have. I love cheering you on. I love knowing what's out there. I love helping connect people together. And I truly am not just a voice in your earbuds or alongside you in your car right now. I'm a real human being and I would love to connect with you. So please take that as your invitation to reach out. I hope that you are enjoying your day. Whatever you're multitasking doing right now, you are crushing it. I will see you next week.